Hi, everyone. Welcome to How to Develop Your Team. My name is Kim Bussey. I'm the Key Relationship Manager here with Omnia. We're going to have a quick audio check. I will direct your attention to the top of your screen. There is an icon with a hand raised. If you can hear me okay, go ahead and click raise hand so I can see if our audio is good. Also, here you have an option to agree or disagree with me if you need me to speak louder or speak softer. Speed up or slow down, please let me know by those icons. Also, because I can't hear you, I do want to say laughter and applause is always appreciated. So if I say something you like, please go ahead and respond. Very happy to say that while this is our last webinar of the year, that's not what I'm happy about. We are having something special for you. What we are going to do at the end of our webinar, we have 3 winners based on participation. Throughout the webinar will receive a free course from our Excel IQ Academy. So make sure that you are staying engaged, being a part of this, and really hoping that over the next hour that you're going to walk away with some tools that will help you understand the 4 stages of learning and how that is involved in a team, and also some practical tips that you can apply during that. So before we begin, we're going to start, and I want you to think of one word, just one, that you think about when you hear the word team. I'm going to give you a few moments to think about that, and once you've had it, go ahead and type it in that chat box of the one word that you think about. Good or bad? Ideas, love that. So go ahead. Remember, if you're active and you're responsive, you could win a prize at the end. So success, united, groups, communication. Wow, we've got some great things coming in. Together, perfect, united, all of these. The group working together for one goal, close cooperation, perfect. And there seems to be a theme that's coming out. And you can see it as the words grow a little bit bigger, is that there's a united. And all of these are great tools. So when you think about a team, you think of that goal, you think of respect, you think of that close-knit working together, communication and collaboration. Perfect. When Russell Honor, who is a retired lieutenant general in the U.S. Army, thinks about teams, this is what he said. When you form a team, why do you try to form a team? Because teamwork builds trust, and trust builds speed. Now, not only was he a retired general in the U.S. Army, but he led the Task Force Katrina in the aftermath of the hurricanes in 2005. Coordinating the relief efforts, coordinating to make sure that everything is taken care of. He knows something about teams. And as we talk about today, we're going to talk about how those teams work together, how they can come together, and what those 4 stages are. Within every team, whether it's a new employees, brand new team forming together, or possibly realigning a team for existing employees, or even new projects, these 4 stages will apply. It's continuous. And you will see that regardless of what stage a team is in, that there is some fluidity within these stages. Depending on the projects, depending on what's going on, you may see something that while a team starts off in forming and storming and norming, and now they're in the norming and they go back to the storming. And in our course of our webinar today, we're going to talk about that, what each of those 4 stages means, what you as a leader can do, and then what is essential to understand through each of those stages. Now, we'll let you know in that question box at the end, we are going to have a Q&A, but please go ahead and make sure if you have any questions throughout the webinar, type it in. The webinar is being recorded. It will be available next week. If you don't follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, I highly encourage it. You'll receive a notification that says that the recording is ready. Also, if you think, okay, I need to frantically write, the copy of the presentation will be available for downloading at the end of the webinar. So let's go ahead and begin. So we talked about the 4 stages. 4 stages start with forming. Then we move into storming, norming, and performing. But really, what does that mean? Well, before we can talk about the 4 stages, let's talk about the key to all 4 stages. And that key is communication. So let's think about what communication is. At the upper left-hand corner, you see a poll. What's the most important part of communication? Is it listening? Is it talking? Or do you think both are equally important? Go ahead and select one. Oh, we see listening and both are equally. Love how talking has absolutely 0. And you'll go back. So I'm seeing a 40-60 split between both of them. But overall, everyone agrees that both talking and listening is important. And I would agree with you. Communication has to be 2 ways. It has to go back and forth. But what we have a tendency to do as leaders of a team or even as part of a team is to color our communication by our perceptions and perspectives. And we're going to talk about that later on in the webinar. But when it's colored by our perspectives, what happens is that our ears tend to turn off. And overall, I see that everyone agrees that both are equally important. But I'm going to put you to a quick listening test. There are no grades required. So what I want you to do is grab a quick piece of paper and I'm going to read some questions and I want you to answer them. Once again, this is on your own. You don't have to answer out loud. At the end, we'll do a quick scoring and I'll tell you how good of a listener you are. So on number 1, in this list of names, George, John, David, Adam, James, and Grace, which names begin with a J? Underneath your answer, write the number 2A and 2B. 2A. Would you look, suppose you were given these directions. Go to room 315 and look in the lower right drawer and bring me all of the boxes of pencils that are left there. A, would you look in the right or left-hand drawer? B, would you go to room 531, 315, or 135? Now write the number 3. Answer true or false to this. In the list of words, be, see, free, glee, flee, me, the second word mentioned is free. Number 4. Your spouse asks you to bring home meat, milk, cheese, bread. You bring home milk, peas, bread, and meat. What did you forget? Number 5. You are the driver of a school bus. At the first stop, 13 children get on. At the next stop, 5 children get on and 2 get off. At the next stop, 8 children get on. At the next stop, 4 more get on and 1 sneaks off. How old is the bus driver? Okay, so let's do a quick tally. Give yourself 20 points if you wrote John and James. For number 2A, give yourself 10 points if you wrote that you'll find the pencils in the right drawer. And another 10 points if you said you'll find them in room 315. Number 3, give yourself 20 points if you said false. The second word was see. And another 20 points if you said you forgot the cheese. And last but not least, give yourself 20 points if you wrote your own age down. Tally up your score. Now, let's see what you did. So if you scored 100, great job. You're an excellent listener. Terrific. You've got the first part of communication down. If you scored a 90, you're a good listener. Scored 80, you're fair, but you can improve. If you scored a 70, you need a little bit of help. And if you scored 60 or below, well, let's just say I probably wasn't very engaging for you. Didn't get you to turn on your ears. The reason why we is that listening is such a key part. It's the foundation of communication. And as you communicate as a leader to develop your team, the first thing that you need to do is to listen to your team. You want to ask questions of them, and they can be the hard questions as well. You don't want to evade. Every leader must build trust and credibility. And as leaders, there may be times where you have to say, I don't know the answer. Business changes, environments change. And there may be time as a manager, as a leader, as a supervisor, that what is happening today may not happen tomorrow. But be honest. Talk to them about it. Tell your team, I don't have the answer. As soon as I know, I will share. And don't monopolize. As leaders, we have a tendency to think, I know where we want to go. The vision is in my head. I've got the strategic plan. So we're going to follow it. And I'm going to tell you how to get there. And once we get there, I'm going to tell you how to do what I need you to do. For a team, as you begin to develop your team, as you begin to say, this is what I need from you, this is where I want you to be, you're going to have to give them that opportunity to share the opinions, to share their thoughts as well. You can't monopolize the team building, and you can't monopolize the team's thought process. And regardless of what stage you are in during the 4 stages of team development, you have to keep those 4 things in mind. So let's talk about that first stage of forming. What does it really mean? Okay, they all sound like they rhyme, they all sound interesting, but truly, what does forming mean? Well, forming is defined as a group of people coming together to accomplish a shared purpose. Whether that shared purpose is something that they've created, or if it's a shared purpose that has been assigned to them. Now, whenever a group of people come together, they bring very different things. They bring their own perspectives of things. They bring their own thoughts, their own ideas. And for you as a leader, your role is really make sure that they work together. There are a few things that you want to focus on. You want to focus on creating an environment that is open and honest. People who come into that are in this first stage of team development have a tendency to be a little bit more guarded. I don't know you as well as I know Carrie. So I've got to get to know you first before I can feel confident to open up, to speak with you, to tell you my ideas and my thoughts. So as a leader, there are a few things that you should do during this stage. Number 1, you should check in often. Casting your vision, casting the goal and the strategic plan is not a one and done time. You want to make sure your team is working together. You want to start setting clear expectations for the individuals and the team. You want to be available for them. During the forming stage, your team will have many, many questions. Once again, they're going to come to you more than they may come to you for other positions, because they're going to talk with you about, I'm not quite sure what the expectation is. Can we revise it? Can we revamp it? So you have to be available as a leader. When your team comes to you, you have to be able to talk with them to understand what they need. And you also have to be able to set realistic goals. For some of us who are very, very fast-paced and very assertive, we may set goals, and as I was talking to someone earlier this week, they said, I don't believe in stretch goals. I'm going to set the goal as high as I can, and then I know if we reach 90% of the goal, I'm okay with that. But for a brand new team, setting a goal that seems unattainable is instantly demotivating and unrealistic. As a leader, you need to make sure that if that's you, very fast-paced, very assertive, I want to reach this goal and I want to reach it yesterday, look at the team that you're bringing together. Are they as fast-paced? Are they as assertive? What you may have to say is that our ultimate goal is to reach $1 million in revenue from our CSRs. As a CSR team that's coming together, that's forming, I want you to increase revenue by 10%, which is $350,000. You may know that we can reach $1 million because we've got new tools, we've got new products, we've got new product knowledge coming out. But for your team, they understand the expectation of them, but also where you want to go. And then also, as a leader, you need to make sure that you're communicating both with the individuals and as a team. What you may find in a team that's in this forming stage is that I feel more comfortable with one person, so I'm going to go talk with them. So I may say, Julie, I feel Julie and I were on the same page. I've worked with her in the past. I'm going to go to Julie and we're going to talk about this first. But what happens is now you've started to create this silo within a team. 2 or 3 people are working together, which may be counterproductive to what the team's goal is as a whole, rather unintentionally. But to have those sidebar conversations when appropriate, and when as a leader you need to be involved in that, but also to make sure that the team has an opportunity to come together, to talk, to brainstorm, to process information as a team and assign individual goals. The next stage is storming, and yes, it is exactly what it sounds like. During this stage, people become more comfortable with each other. In forming, you have to think of them as this first impression. I'm going to do what I need to do to present myself as well as possible. In storming, we've gotten comfortable with each other. I've worked together for a while. We're working together. I know what Adam's style is. I know what Bertha's style is. Now I've got to come together. How can I come together? Well, you know what, Carrie? You're starting to aggravate me a little bit. This is where you're going to see the most conflict in a team begin to appear. And real quick in the question box, when you hear the word conflict, do you think it's a good or bad thing? So just type real quick in the question box, is conflict good or bad? So I see some people saying good, good, good. Depends. Great, Sean. It does depend. It can be good. Both, absolutely, Christy. So see some boths coming up, some it depends on the situation. Absolutely. And I would say that conflict can be good. It can also be bad. It depends on the situation and it depends on how it's resolved. Many people think about conflict, and when they hear that word, they think it's all automatically negative. There's a disagreement. However, conflict can also mean we have a difference of opinions, but as we're brainstorming, as we're working on a project, you bring up an idea, I bring up something different, but then we begin to work together as a team. We begin to form maybe a third option that combines your opinion and my opinion, and together it's going to be taken care of. When conflict becomes a very negative thing and when it becomes very much storming is when it's not resolved and handled in a professional manner. If someone on your team prefers to avoid conflict, absolutely. What happens is that conflict begins to start building up and building up and building up, and sometimes it can explode. If you have someone who's too quick to respond to conflict, then everything is a conflict and it makes it difficult to work with them. This particular stage, and with each stage, there is no time frame. I can't tell you that your norming stage is going to take 15 business days, your storming is going to take 30 business days. Performing is going to be until the end of time. As you add new members, as you lose new members to the team, you may find yourself going back and forth between these stages. But storming does have its own unique challenges. For a leader, your challenges is going to be managing those team dynamics, making sure that you are emphasizing the tolerance of the team members. Also, during the storming aspect, it could affect and lower team motivation and morale. Jeremiah is always just naysaying every single idea that I throw out. Every single one. We just can't have a meeting of the minds. It's demoralizing. So, as a leader, one of the things that you have to do is one, to make sure that you don't fall into that role as constant referee. Refer them back, listen to your team member, what they have to say, and then give them the tools to resolve that conflict. Have you gone and talked to Jeremiah about this? Have you, Mary Ray, have you approached this? Have you looked at it from their perspective? What could you do differently to resolve this? The challenges for the team members is that because they are feeling a little bit more comfortable, those frustrations and disagreements are going to be voiced openly. You just want to make sure that they're voiced openly to the correct person, and that is either you as a leader or to the person that they're frustrated with. What you don't want to happen is to have a team member frustrated with their partner A, and now they're going to partner B and partner C and partner D and creating conflict and drama within the team. Going back to that norming stage and setting those clear expectations, that's one of the expectations that you want to set. You also want to help them remember that conflict is key. During the storming stage, most of the time is when your team members want to disengage, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. Is this truly, you know what, the conflict is too much, I'm going to withdraw. Making sure that you're managing that conflict with them, it is going to allow them to understand that instead of withdrawing, instead of quitting, let's pull it together. Also, your team members are concerned that goals won't be met. There's so much conflict between this that how are we actually going to get the job done? As a leader, when you're developing a team within the stage, what you should do is allow that open, respectful communication. Create rules of engagement that's going to teach them in this team, this is how we're going to handle conflict. Allow appropriate venting. Sometimes your team just needs to come to you, vent, their complaints off of their chest, and when you look at them and say, okay, what are the next steps that you need from me? They're going to say nothing, I just needed you to listen. You also have to understand this is normal. It can be very frustrating when you take key top performers, put them together, form this team, and you say, okay, now we're going to go and we're just going to reach our goal and everything is going to be beautiful. In the storming phase, in the storming stage, it can be as disheartening for the leader as it is for the team. So once again, understanding that it's normal and stressing that with your team as well, if this is how we're going to get through it, is going to be key. You want to refocus them on the goals and then model what you expect. So real quick, do you think everyone on the team has the same goal? Go ahead and select yes or no. And then the second one that I have is who's responsible for goal buy-in? Is it the leader, the employee, or both? And after you've selected your answer, just quick chat. What are some steps that you think a leader can take to direct team members to one goal? Want to make sure that this is interactive, but also for you to share some of your best practices. So what are some of the steps that you've taken to direct team members to one goal? Because everyone, overwhelmingly, 88% of you have said that no, everyone on the team doesn't have the same goal. And while everyone is responsible, both the leader and the employee, for goal buy-in, and as you agree with a whopping 78%, ultimately it is the leader's job to lead, to talk about that vision, to talk about that strategic plan, and bring your employee to a point where they want to buy into the goal. So I see some people typing. So Russ, make sure a focus is kept on the goal. Try to set that goal together. David, I love that. Communicate and then over communicate. I heard one time that read in a book that said, when casting a vision, You want to keep talking about it to the point that when the leader is tired of talking about it is when the team is actually starting to buy into the vision. That applies to the goal as well. Sean, I love that. Show them the big picture. How is this going to affect? I was reading an article earlier today about Google, and they are very, very different in their leadership styles in that the leader comes in one day and says, just post a sign in the kitchen that said, with some printouts of ads that said, these ads search stink, and left. The vision and the goal of Google was so well communicated that everyone knew that many eyes make the bug look small, which basically means that instead of us calling people together and forming a team of top performers and meetings, which may take 2 to 3 months, he posted it someplace and posted the problem. It allowed a team to form that would say, what are we going to do about this problem? And actually, a group of engineers got together and with adding some search engine optimization, some different formulas, they were able to increase the ad find. But the leader had set that goal. They had communicated the vision. They had given them the parameters to work within. Mandy, I love that. Get input from team members when formulating the goal, constantly reinforce and come back to the goal. Think big picture. Absolutely. And Jody, I love how you're saying, let's break down that smaller goal to reach the ultimate goal. But as you break that down, you want to make sure that they understand that what is the big picture? Where are we going? And as you make those smaller goals, it's going to allow your team to buy into it, to be able, for those of them that get fast paced and just hate deadlines and get bored by having a smaller goal to the ultimate goal, they're going to stay engaged. Now we have something to celebrate. It's a win. What can we do with it? But once again, as all of you seem to say, is that for communication, you have to set that goal. And once you've set that goal, you have to continue to communicate it. And not only do you need to continue to communicate it, but you want to review it too. Listen to what your team is saying about the goal. And then filter that through, is it accurate or is it something that now I need to reinforce? If they're focusing on how difficult one part of the goal is, now as a leader, you know how to change your communication. And when you're setting goals, there's a few things that you want to do. You want to make sure that you are setting some measurable, achievable goals. Many of you have probably heard of SMART. But keep it in mind when you're setting that goal. You want to be specific and clear. You want to make sure it's measurable. If a goal isn't measurable, then how can you say whether it's been achieved or not? And measurable doesn't always mean through numbers. Maybe it's through customer satisfaction scoring. Maybe it's through a reduction of errors. Whatever goal you set, make sure it's measurable, make sure it's achievable, it's realistic, and it's time related. It goes back to setting those goals, whether it's a smaller goal, into an ultimate goal. Think about any type of goal that you've had in your mind that has taken more than 6 months. Usually by month 3, you get more bored with it, right? How many of you agree? Go ahead and select agree. If you have a goal that's 6 months, once it's past that long term, you're halfway there, you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with it. Now I've got to get re-engaged with it. Okay, thank you, Jody. I've got one person who agrees with me. Thank you for filling that. A couple of people, 2 or 3 people agree. So we have to learn how to stay actively engaged. By having those measurable, realistic, time-related goals, we're able to do a check-in to say, does the goal need to be revised, revamped, or are we on the right path? Are we hitting it? If we're not hitting it, then maybe we have to take that team back to the storming phase and say what we're doing isn't working. What will we keep? What will we kill? What are we going to change to make sure that we can hit our goals? Goes back to not monopolizing the conversation. You can say we're not hitting goals, but then allowing the team to tell you why and what are they going to do to hit those goals. The third stage of a developing team is norming. This is when they start, okay, I've gotten past the conflict resolution. Now we're starting to click on all 8 cylinders. During the norming stage, the team starts to resolve their differences. They begin to appreciate each other's strengths, and they're working together towards a common goal. During this stage, you're going to start seeing your role as a leader change. You may not have to be as hands-on every single moment of the day. They begin to understand maybe they're dividing up the team's dynamics and the responsibilities based on their team strengths. What are they having to do to work together to reach that goal? During this stage, there's a few things as a leader that you want to do. You want to begin to promote that peer-to-peer accountability. You want to inspect what you expect. You've set those goals. They're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic. Now you have to inspect it. You want to begin to guide that conflict resolution. So in the storming phase, you're a little bit more of the, let me tell you how to resolve it. Now in the norming phase, you should be more along the lines of how are you going to resolve it? Becoming more of a sounding board versus that resolver. You want to make sure that you're maintaining morale. Are people being discouraged? And then you want to coach and counsel. As you coach and counsel, you're going to coach on both those positive and negative items that may happen. So real quick, let's just do another quick check-in for you. Is that everyone on this team, do you think they have the same perception, true or false? And then whose perception is more important? The leader, the employees, or the team? And do you think perception can be changed, yes or no? So overwhelmingly, everyone agrees it's false. Everyone on the team doesn't have the same perception. And the team's perception, 78% of you say that's the number one perception. And about 75% say yes, perceptions can be changed, but it depends on the situation. I want to direct your attention to that second one. Think about what the team's perception is made out of. It's made up of individual perceptions. Stage, you want to make sure that while everything is made up, the team is made up of individuals, that overall the perception is we've got to work towards this common goal. I'm hoping you're starting to see this theme. So if you're communicating what the goal is, that is going to influence your team's perceptions. If you're communicating and allowing people to come to you when they have a different perception, you're able to either change it or understand it, how it influences the goal, or their work towards the goal. And as they reach those goals, if they are realistic, how the perception is going to be stated. If a goal is unrealistic, then the perception of someone may be that there is no way that we're going to hit this goal. So why should I even try? As a leader, you have to constantly listen, you have to inspect what you expect, and you have to recast that goal continuously. But by promoting that peer-to-peer accountability you're allowing your peers to be able to say, you know what, I don't agree with you. Let's have some healthy dialogue about that, and let's move forward with it. And sometimes perceptions aren't changed, but people will say, you know what, for the team, we've all heard or said, I'm going to take one for the team. The next stage is performing. So the 4 stages, and this tends to be the last stage. So Bruce Tucker created these 4 stages in the mid-60s. Later on, he added a 5th stage called adjourning. We're not going to focus on that one today. We're going to focus on the 4 stages that have been proven. And in performing, that's when your team is top of the line. Everyone knows on the team that the team is greater than the sum of its parts. So if I need to sacrifice and stay late and work because Carrie's ill and I'm going to take care of what she needs to take care of, I'm okay with that because I know at the end of the day that Carrie's going to give back to me if I need it. Most people say, okay, the team is working great. My job as a leader is done. However, that's not the case. During the performing stage, that's actually not the end, but the beginning of your team development. In performing, a team can fall into a comfort zone. We know what we're doing. We're working very well together. Everything's great. So what should we do now? Well, what happens is that as people get more and more comfortable and they feel like they understand what's going on, then you may see that at the end that they're engaged, but they're not actively engaged. So you want to make sure that as a leader, people aren't sliding underneath the radar. So I love this quote by Stephen Covey that says, accountability breeds responsibility. And when you hear accountability, most people feel like it's the leader coming and saying, you're not doing this well. This is what you made a mistake on. But you have to understand that fundamentally, people want to do a good job. Most people are professionals. They want to be proud of their work. So when you think about that and you keep that first and foremost in your mind, then you begin to realize and understand that mistakes aren't intentional. They're often the results of good intentions. And I'm going to say that again. Mistakes aren't intentional. They are often the results of good intentions. Now, I am not saying that you never hold someone accountable because they didn't mean to make a mistake. They just did, and they had a good heart for it, so we're just going to fix it. What holding someone accountable means that you recognize that mistake. You give them the ownership and the opportunity to correct that mistake. And as a leader, you give them the guidance to avoid that mistake in the future. And at times, what you may find is during this accountability stage that you may have employees who beat themselves up worse than anything that you could possibly say. They are their own worst critic. And if that's the case, during this accountability stage, you may recognize what they've done wrong, what their mistake was. But then you're going to talk about, okay, next time, what are you going to do to avoid it? Your number one job during the performing stage as a leader is to hold accountability. You want to make sure that you're inspecting what you expect. Because if you don't look at, this is what I want from you, then it's not fair to you, the team, or the employee to say 6 months from now, you weren't doing your job correctly this entire 6 months. So now, here are the repercussions. Because a lot of times those mistakes, those errors could be corrected before they grow as large as they do. And also, when you hold people accountable, you give them that ownership. You're giving them a learning opportunity to grow in their career. So, as we talk about accountability, do you think every team has untitled leaders on it? True or false? So, I'm seeing 100%. No one has even thought about that. 100% say yes, absolutely. We have untitled leaders. And when you think about it, it goes right back into the part where we're talking about that accountability and that peer-to-peer accountability. How you recognize those untitled leaders is by, think about your team. Who is the one or two people on your team that everyone goes to when they have a question? Who do you go to when you want to see where the team is? Who is the first person that welcomes new people to the team or volunteers for additional things? Those are your accountability leaders. Those are the people who, whether they have the title of leader or not, is that peer-to-peer accountability. And that's when you need to bring them in for feedback. And feedback is important. What you need to remember about feedback is that it has a couple of purposes. And when you talk about feedback, you want to make sure that you're looking at a couple of things. One, the purpose. Why is it important? Is it positive or constructive? Regardless of whether it's positive or constructive, you want to summarize it. If I'm telling you, if I'm holding you accountable, Carrie, then I'm going to tell you this is what you did well, and here's one or two things I need you to do better next time. And once again, it has to be two ways. If you're asking for your team for feedback, you have to be open to it. You have to understand that sometimes people who are in the front lines are going to realize that a job needs something that maybe a manager or a supervisor doesn't. And you want to have that follow-up. You want to make sure that it's consistent and continuous. With this, one of the things that we use here at Omnia is we have a development action plan. And we use this throughout the teams to say, okay, what can I do as a leader to help you with it? What are some of the strengths? What are some of the challenges? Where do you want to improve? Goes back into that accountability and that feedback. And now I can start using it for recognition. Recognition is key. As leaders, sometimes we have a tendency to only recognize those that are making mistakes. But you want to make sure that you're recognizing achievements as well. So real quick, I want you to think one word. What type of recognition do you prefer? Only using one word. Maybe it's praise. Maybe it's cash or time off or prizes. Go ahead and type in how do you like to be recognized? Money, cash, acknowledgement, praise. Terrific. Let's see, anybody will acknowledgement. Ooh, lots of acknowledgement and praise. Seeing some cash as well. So overwhelmingly, you can see that acknowledgement tends to be that number one recognition. And it's important to realize that because as leaders, we tend to recognize at the way recognized. By a show of hands, how many of you have offered a great financial incentive for your team and you didn't get the results that you thought you were going to get? I'm seeing one person, couple of wonderful. So we tend to recognize the way we want to be recognized. The problem with that is that it doesn't speak to everyone. And yes, Wendy, the full circle will be available. So with that recognition, you want to talk to your people. Once again, it goes back to communication. If you communicate with them, you're going to understand what motivates them. What type of recognition? Do I want the parade through the office? Do I want you just to hand me a check? Do I want one-on-one communication? Because if you call me up in front of the team, I hate being in front of people. So you've got to communicate. You've got to understand what behaviors drive your team members to make sure that you're giving them those key recognition. And remember that regardless of what stage someone is in, whether your team is in the norming stage or the performing stage, celebrate those wins each and every day. So we have a few minutes left. If you have any questions, I want you to go ahead and just type them in the box right now. While we're waiting for any questions that are coming in, we are going to let you know of a couple of things. We have our January webinars that are coming up. It's going to be a 4-week series that is focused strictly on recruiting, power interviewing. We're going to talk about onboarding for success and delivering a painless 90-day employee and performance ties right into the storming and norming of a new team. You can sign up for those next week. And once again, our Lunch and Learn webinars are absolutely complimentary. We want to use them. If you have any questions about this webinar or anything else, please go ahead and email me. My phone number is up there. But we have the winners of our most active participants to receive the free course. Congratulations, Adam. Oh, now we're waiting anxiously for the second one. Renee, congrats. And winner number 3, drum roll, is Russ. Congratulations. So I'm very happy that you received that free course. It's a $245 value. But because you participated and was a part of our webinar today, we do want to offer the delegation and motivation for leaders. It's regularly $145. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and any other holiday that you may celebrate at a $99 value. But I'm not seeing any questions. Wendy, you did ask about the slide. Under takeaways for you, you can download the presentation as well as that development action plan if you'd like. Any questions or comments about anything from today? So I want to just thank you. Once again, how to develop a team is probably one of your hardest things as a leader that you will do. But you have to keep in mind that your people are an investment. And once your people are invested in the team, you've coached them through the norming, storming, forming, and performing stages, they're going to be working for you. They're going to appreciate you. And now as a leader, your job can be working on individual promotion and coaching. If you're wondering what else Excel IQ offers, it is our e-learning division. It offers soft skills. Please feel free to take a look at our blogs and our soft skills library. And I just want to, on behalf of the Omnia group and Carrie and myself, just thank you so much for giving of your time to be a part of our webinars series that come through every year. We're hoping to see you next year. We do have a survey at the end. Please let us know what you like, what you don't like, and what you might possibly want to hear about next year. And I don't see any questions, so if there are no questions, thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Thank you for the kind words about the session, and I look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you.